You want the mallet? Maybe.
Drum roll time.
In the old days, no, let me have that screwdriver. In the old days, you used aviation permatex.
Which one?
It's this brown looking stuff that you, the one that fell in right there. Where did it go?
Oh, this one over here.
And,
when the Volkswagen first came out, they used silk threads.
Really?
Between.
Huh.
I did that 1 year. I didn't have a leak out. That was back in the 70s. Yep, there we go. There we go. Back in order.
Drum roll.
da, 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 da. So we're about to find out what's wrong with John's engine. Okay. The cam will stay in place. These four tappets won't. They're going to fall out. They'll either fall on this tray or into the oil in the engine. There they go.
This is interesting.
Well, your crank's not broken.
We did all this for nothing?
Thanks for the demo.
Got 2 plug wires off.
I wonder why that turned on that one.
It ain't broke.
Put it back together.
Okay.
Well, you got another
Let,
one
let
in
me
there.
go get that that other bench that we set it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, what did you say was interesting when you took something over?
No, I was just, it was at, on the radio, like a 95.5. This is interesting.
Okay. Don't say stuff like that.
Or good sound.
That's when you say oops, and we go, what do you mean oops?
There was one more.
Yeah, no. I'm
It's a
trying to
surgeon
remember
says
what
oops,
the
he's
show
in
was
trouble.
on TV years ago where they had the guy in the German helmet going,
Oh yeah,
very interesting.
that was hee-haw.
Hardy Johnson.
Hardy Johnson.
Laughing.
Laughing.
Well, there's a memory for you.
Very interesting.
What'd you say, Gordy?
You must do good in trivia.
Hey,
Bearing is
Well, it had,
Ray,
to,
remember how close that other crank was by the door you were talking about?
it had to be looked at.
You know, you
but
might
it
could
came
pull
in, it
this
was
out and
easy.
fall into 2 pieces
Yeah.
too.
okay. Let me lift this out. Okay. The
Cam.
camshaft just lifts out. All right. There's the cam. Here's the crank.
Into
There's your broken spot.
Oh, wait a minute. We need a shot of that too.
We have
Hey,
a winner.
John, you have a broken crank.
There's your paperweight for your desk.
All right, Ray, smile.
You need John's picture.
Move it closer. We get a shot.
Yeah, John, you get in there too.
That's perfect. Yeah, John, you need to be in there smiling.
Get in there and put out tears.
Perfect. Damn, you're good.
I don't want to see this on the radio.
Yeah, it wasn't beat up. It was still.
Well, if you're going to break a crank, that's the place to break it.
Well, usually they break here. I've never seen them break it number one.
Well, I'm just saying, at least you don't have
Wow.
connecting rods and everything moving in different directions.
But
if it
there
breaks
you go.
Look at there.
So basically, it's just age that does that.
Well, you can analyze this, x-ray it and look at it and see, but it looks like to me it's just a production. No, it's old. Huh? Yeah, but I think it's just a fracture. I think it just broke.
It's John drag racing. Power shifts.
See, the flywheel is out here. All that weight is on this end. And so this is where that transfer, the more you go forward, the smaller the bearing. This is only 39 millimeters. And number 3 and number 2 are bigger. They're 52, and this one right here is 49. And so in looking at these different bearings, it's no wonder. I mean, the load, the way you drive.
But that
Hey,
doesn't
have
look like
fun.
much collateral damage, right?
It broke
He's
in the
pretty
right
lucky.
place.
Yeah, very
You're-
lucky.
you're
It broke in the
lucky
right
that-
place.
Yeah,
You
we can
shouldn't
use
have.
the case.
Yeah,
And you turned it off
didn't-
at just the right time.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
it didn't.
Cap.
It didn't
This
damage
is
your
what we're
case.
talking about.
Ray, tell us what you get.
Guys,
Fourth gear.
when you're driving and you hear a noise, stop.
No,
Ray, these
Stop.
things either have to be
Nope.
refinished, or
nothing.
they have to go back and same spot.
They don't go back, there's no bearings in it. That's machined into the case.
I thought. the-
Were you able to
Oh,
stop
these-
pretty quick?
These will probably be
coasted.
replaced.
Because on
The
mine,
engine
I
was off. I
I
just
was
coasted.
right in traffic and I had to go
There's
through an
stone
intersection
ground.
before I could pull
It's
over.
about a 63 Rockwell hardness, and they have a, as
a
Rudy said,
dome,
they have a
right?
dome, and what happens is, as the cam turns, they rotate. And so if you don't if they don't rotate, then that's when they
Right.
break and wear out.
I thought one of the bearings was a solid bearing.
Well,
These are all
this was the
clamshell.
big one.
Okay, that's what.
Okay, and this
Where
goes
was
at
it?
number 1 in the back. Well, it was real obvious what happened.
Hey, John, put in a counterbalance crank this time.
What's a counterbalance
Wasn't
crank?
such a good idea.
It's gonna get a little less vibration, but
Okay, that goes like that. That's
comes
the number
down?
1 main bearing.
Here,
But
it comes
clanks
down
Is there
to
a valve
more of a
on that?
knife too.
Yes,
But when
right here.
it's so that when you put it on a balance
So is that
machine, it
damaged or any of that
No,
damaged?
doesn't appear to be.
just- These, if you put
That's
them on a
not
balance
bad. An
machine,
hour and a
they
half,
find a
guys.
place.
That's good, Ray.
hey, this is
Do we have this much fun?
Very
Yep.
good.
I think
Thank you, Louis.
Now that
That
you're
thing
in,
is
you should
too-
offer people to rotate, come on up, ask questions.
Yeah,
do
that's
stuff.
it.
I'm serious.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to see.
Are you gonna
It's
post
hard to
that
see.
somewhere?
Okay, well, let's sit down and do a Q&A.
This is
That's
just
what-
awesome.
Okay, what could you do for this not to happen? And I don't know. Because you can buy a brand new crank and it can break. You can buy one that we can do everything we want to do to test it, to try to find, what's it called, propagation of cracks that or be through the metal. And we just, you know, I don't know. You would see that. It would show up. As soon as you put that Magnaflux material, the liquid on it, I don't know, I forgot what that stuff is. And then you light it up and it just shows you the cracks. Zoom. On cast iron heads on English cars, you have to do it all the time because they break. And they break in weird places between oil and water galleys. And so you've got to stop it. But this car
You
doesn't,
think that's
it's
the
mostly
original
aluminum.
crank? The 60-year-old crank?
Yep.
So how do you go about finding the replacement crank? You just have to buy it and take your chance that
Well,
it's gonna work?
if it was me and money wasn't an object, I'd buy a scat crank, counterbalance scat crank billet, and it'll never break. And I'd put a set of Corella rods on it, which will never break. And if you put those together, and then,
So what's that run you?
well, the cranks are about $2,000, maybe. You can find some deal on one someplace. And then the
Gorilla.
the Corella rods, I don't know, I haven't priced any in a while. I don't know.
But if you're not gonna do
I'll
that,
tell you, there's some testimonials that I'd love to hear. But Dr. Cohen, where is, Gary Myers, and I've done both of their engines in the last month. And so I can tell you from my experience in building those motors with good parts, boy, they go together beautifully. They spin easily. I take the crankshaft from, like I told you before, 16 pounds to 12. That's 25% of the weight. Flywheel out, what'd I say? Crank. Okay. Then after I do that, then I take it to the machine shop. We'll check everything to make sure there's no cracks or anything in it. Then we balance it to 0 at 6,000 RPMs. So as it goes up the scale, you'll watch the RPM spin up on the machine, and it'll be all over the place. We have to drill them out and change the weights and move all the stuff around to get it to where it's 0. And once it's 0, then you know you're not going to get any vibration. So it's this crank without the rods. It has the gears, it has the front pulley and the flywheel. And then after you get that balanced, then you put the pressure plate on and you balance it again with that, because that's the rotating mass. And I can't remember all my physics stuff, but as you move further out, it takes less and less weight to make a bigger and bigger moment. And so in rotating like that, you just got to get it down to where it's zero. And that's what we do. I got Danny Bruce down here has worked beautifully with us in balancing these things. Then we'll make sure all the machine work's done before we bring it back. And then it goes through the washers, everything gets cleaned up. And then we start the second half, the rods. I go down to the machine shop. He's got all the equipment, and I can square them and I can balance them. So not only are they to the crank, this way they're not sitting in it like that, so to speak. You take them and you do this, and you got to have a certain tolerance that works in the web. So we do that. We put that together. Then they're balanced, and they'll weigh, let's say, 450 grams. Not 451, not 453, 450, if that's what they all weigh. Then they're matched exactly. Then they have to go on the crank a certain way. The numbers going up. You don't put them on randomly. They're put on where there are all the numbers. So each one of these rods has a number that's stamped into it for, I don't know, 26. So that 26 on that rod is up when it's laying down flat. We put that together. Then we get to the pistons and cylinders, depending on what you want to use. I have found that the Shasta stuff works pretty daggum good. It's not too terribly expensive. It's the J&E makes the piston, and then the jug is made in the U.S. It's bored. It's really good when you get down inside it, and I measure everything to make sure all the finish and all that is perfect. Put those things, put the pistons on, they got to be weighed. They all weigh the same. Piston, pin, the piston, the gudgeon pin, the O-rings and the rings, not the O-rings, the snap rings and the ring. The ring pack is the trick. You gotta get a good one. You can't don't ever let anybody talk you into buying Deeves rings. They're absolute shit. They just, you can't wear them in a lifetime. Don't buy them. There are a lot of other kinds, but I won't use them. And unfortunately, that's what my pals at Stoddard sell with their piston cylinder set. That's what, no, those are not. But they come in multiple pieces, and you have to put them together. Well, I size every one of them. The gap, when you put them inside the jug, the gap in the ring has to be 15 thousandths, not 26, 15. You put them together at 15. Steve gave me a ring grinder, and I can take those things and turn them, and they'll be dead on the money every time. Put them together, then you don't have oil consumption by blowing by on the rings. So that's done. Pistons go together, jugs go on. Now you get to the heads. Well, I like the old style guides. A lot of people don't, but I like them. They're made out of copper, and the new ones are made out of brass or silicon, and you've got a machine